it's something that they don't recommend you do. And there's some really, really great reasons why you shouldn't do it. So don't do it, as hard as it is not to. It's Mel here, and welcome back to Mel's Blind Life, the YouTube channel all about blindness, and welcome to another orientation and mobility guide dog related video. And today I'm going to explain to you about why you shouldn't compare your guide dogs to one another, and I'm going to also give you a short explanation of how the personalities of both of my dogs, my first guide dog Darcy, who worked for me for 6 years, and my second guide dog Penny, who I have had for 8 months. I'm going to give you a brief summary of how their personalities are very different. So when you get your first guide dog and you've worked with it for a very, very long time, you get used to it. You get used to its personality, you get used to its temperament, you become very, very close, and you and it can become very inseparable, and you can read one another's minds, and it's all lovely and sweet and everything until the day that your dog retires. Then it can be pretty scary because you now don't have that dog that you've bonded with and gotten to know and love, and you appreciate one another really, really well and everything like that. And all of a sudden you have to learn to love another dog, and it can be really difficult because you spend quite a bit of time in your training, or even when you bring the dog home going, well, my previous dog didn't do that, or why is it doing this because my previous dog didn't do it. But the instructors will tell you right from the very beginning, do not compare this dog with your first dog. He and her, which was my case, are completely different dogs, and they will tell you not to do it. So when Darcy retired, I had a fairly substantial gap between Darcy and Penny to get used to the fact that I was going to have a different dog. I know some people who will go into training on Monday, having retired their dog the previous Friday. I know one person, I've seen a few people, but there was one person in my class actually who he was still working his dog when he went home on the weekends, but they did the retirement paper when they brought the new dog home. I have seen people who have had several months between dog 1 and dog 2, or sometimes even several years, and that was my situation. I retired Darcy in February. I applied for my second dog in May, and I got her in October. So between Darcy's retirement and me getting Penny was an 8-month gap. So I had quite a bit of time to get used to the fact that I was going to have a very different dog. Now, I also had the advantage of both my mum and my aunt, who had guide dogs before, and they both knew the fact that you can't compare apples with oranges, and don't compare number 1 dog to number 2 dog. So I tried to learn that from quite early on. I tried to really hard to put Darcy behind me and not to think about Darcy when I was working with Penny, which for a couple of months, you know, for some people can be really hard. I know one person who I trained with who was constantly calling his new dog his old dog's name, and that happens a lot. I don't think I've called Penny Darcy very often. I think I could probably count the number of times on one hand that I've legitimately called her Darcy. Obviously a couple of times, like when they're running around playing and stuff, I might get them confused, you know, as they run past me. I might tell Penny that she's a good boy or something like that. But when I'm working with her, I think I've probably only called her a good boy or called her Darcy a handful of times in the last 7 or 8 months. So I think I'm doing pretty well there. Pat myself on the back. So, yeah, I tried really hard to forget about Darcy when I was training with Penny. I know another lady who said that she always used to just, she was the type of person who she didn't keep her dogs after they'd retired. She was always able to find new homes for them, and she used to take them to their new homes and leave them. And I'm not going to say forget about them, because you never forget, but she would prepare her mind for the new dog and try very hard not to reflect on the old dog. And that is a really good thing to do, and that is one of the most important things that you need to do, because you can't spend your next 10 years with your new dog thinking about the old dog. It just doesn't work. And obviously for me, I do think about Darcy every single day because I've still got him living with me, but I've put his work past me now, and I don't think about him as a working dog anymore. So that is one of the important things to do. I don't know exactly how you do it. When I was in the transition, I was saying, yep, Darcy worked for 6 years. He had his good points. He had his not so good points. The things that he did well, he did really well, and I was very grateful for. The things that he didn't do quite so well, hopefully maybe my new dog will be better at those things than Darcy. So one of the major things that I hoped that my new dog would be better at than Darcy was its toileting routine. So no matter how long I had Darcy, even now when I take him for walks, he always, he very often, I'm not going to say always, but I would say in 2 out of every 10 walks with Darcy, he would toilet on the walk. And I would have to pick it up and everything like that. Drove me nuts. So that was one of the things that I said with my new dog, was that I wanted a dog that wouldn't toilet on walks and that had a good established toileting routine. And well, I got that, that's for sure. So I said to guide dogs that I didn't want that again, and I didn't get it. So that was one of the things that Darcy wasn't so good at, that she is fantastic with. Her toileting in work is absolutely amazing. She's really good, and she indicates that she needs to go, so that if she does need to go when we're out, I know that she needs to, and I can take her and relieve her, rather than her just dumping it halfway along the footpath. So that is one of the things that you do, is say to yourself, okay, these were my previous dog's good points, these were my previous dog's not so good points, and I'm just going to hope that my new dog has, is improvement on some of those bad points from my first dog. And it's all a learning curve. I'm still learning about guide dogs and guide dog mobility, even, after having been a dog guide handler for over 7 years now. So it's still something that you learn about. And I don't even think that people like my auntie or my mum who have had 6 dogs, I don't even think they know everything. They might beg to differ, I don't know. But I think that maybe, it's always a learning curve. So that was one of the things that I did, was I thought about the things that my dog was good at. I thought about the things that my dog wasn't quite so great at. And I hoped that she would be, I didn't know it was a she back then, but I hoped that it would be better at some of the things that Darcy wasn't good about. And I also just, remembered the positives about Darcy, and just really I also kind of enjoyed my time without a dog a little bit. I just enjoyed going out with the freedom of not having to worry about the dog toileting, not having to worry about getting it a drink, not having to worry about answering people's questions about it. That was good. So then when I got Penny, obviously I discovered some of her good points, some of her positive traits, and some of her not quite so positive traits. And I became able to love and enjoy her for her good points, and I'm still working on some of her not so great points to make them better. So what is the difference between Penny and Darcy? Now, I'm not going to compare their work, because you just can't do that. I mean, it's completely different. But their personalities are very different. Darcy is very laid back. He's very chilled. He's extremely forgiving. He doesn't care what you do to him. He just is a very patient, very laid back, very loyal, very mummy's boy kind of guy. He's currently sitting on the couch beside me snoring. So he's a very, very laid back mummy's boy. He's also extremely patient. I can take him to school talks and I can have, 6 or 7, 8 or 9-year-olds hanging around him and patting him and making lots of noise, and he's just like laying on the floor in the middle of them, and I don't care, he says. But Penny, on the other hand, obviously she's still only very, very young. She's only 2.5, so she does have a little bit of that psycho puppy left in her still. And labs are puppies for a very long time. At least they act like puppies for a very long time. So that aside, she's a very inquisitive dog. She's very curious. She's extremely, shall we say, food motivated. So she's very much, she loves sniffing. She sniffs everything, and she gives it a very thorough, I call it the deep sniff. She gives it everything a very thorough sniff. If I have been out with Maggie, or even just go to my friend Michelle's place or anything like that, I come home and she's giving my trousers a deep sniff. Like, her nose is almost glued to my pants, checking me out, making sure that I haven't been anywhere that she doesn't like or seen anyone she doesn't know. So she's very inquisitive. She's very sniffy. She's also very very funny. She's got a cute little personality. She's a very she can be quite laid back. Like she can be very snoozy, but she also, when she's awake, she's awake. She's got energy. She's running around. She's playing with her toy. She's sniffing. She's licking. She's, you know, she's very, very awake when she is awake. She certainly couldn't be called dopey like Darcy is. She's also she's starting to become a very affectionate dog. She took a lot longer, and she takes a lot longer to warm up to people. And she's the kind of dog who have their one person who they're really deeply in love with and no one else. Whereas Darcy, he would do anything for anyone. She's also not quite as placid and laid back as Darcy is. I think because she's so curious. I certainly don't think that she could do school talks and lay on the floor while she's being patted by, you know, a whole bunch of grade 3 or 4 children. She just, that's not her thing. She'd be running around like a psychopup. So that's how their behaviors, their personalities at home are different. She, as I said, she loves eating and sniffing things, and it does drive me a little bit nuts. And he just snores all day, don't you, pal? So I hope that is a bit of a help for those of you who might be on that journey between dogs. Just try not to compare them. Obviously, their home personalities are something that you do notice a difference in, and you do notice a difference in their work personalities too. Just try not to make it a big thing. Try really hard to work on your mental strength in recognizing that the things that your previous dog did had good points and bad points, and love them for their good points, and be prepared to love your next dog for its good points too. You know, I still love one of Mum's previous dogs for her good points. I still love Darcy for his good points, for the time that he knew that I was hungry because I hadn't had any lunch and we were walking to catch a train, and the next thing I know, he drags me into Hungry Jack's because he knew that I was hungry. So I still love them for their good points, and hope that they are an improvement on your previous dog's bad points. And if the previous dog did have some bad points in work, such as Darcy's toileting issue, please make sure that you tell your instructor that you need a dog who doesn't toilet on walks like I did, as an example, because if they don't know that that dog had points that you were frustrated by, then, and they can't work on them, then you won't get a dog that has those problems solved. If your instructor doesn't know that you didn't like a dog that toileted on walks, then you have a higher chance of getting that again. So just make sure that you lay everything out on the table when you're going through your application, and tell your instructors everything. If you're struggling to go through the change from dog 1 to dog 2, I know it is hard. It is very stressful. It is very upsetting. And it took a lot of work for me to get there. So please, if you need help, reach out to someone who's been there, done that. It's not like having a divorce from your husband and getting remarried. It's not like losing your best friend and finding another one. It's both of those things plus more, and it's really, really difficult and really stressful. It's up there in one of the most stressful times of your life, believe me. So please, if you're going through that and you're really struggling, please reach out to someone who has had experience with it, and also remember that your new dog is going to be fantastic for you. You're going to really enjoy having the independent mobility that you always enjoyed with your previous dog, and just look forward to it. Love them for what they were and enjoy your new dog for what it's going to be. So I hope that this has helped, and I hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about the differences between Darcy and Penny. And I hope that you will click the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications to get notified when I upload more videos about blindness and orientation, mobility, and horses and guide dogs and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.